something monumental is taking shape across Northern Europe. Sweden has unveiled a $19 billion defense transformation, its largest in modern history. To most headlines, it's about new aircraft and advanced radar systems. But beneath the surface, it's a story of how smaller democracies are quietly redefining the balance of power through technology, industrial cooperation, and the Arctic. And right in the middle of this shift sits Canada, whose innovation and northern expertise are turning this deal into more than a military investment. It's becoming a blueprint for how future alliances will build security through science. Welcome to Geo Capitalist, the channel where we decode how nations build wealth, power, and strategic influence. Today, we're breaking down how Sweden's $19 billion defense deal is changing everything. A deep analysis of how this agreement is reshaping Nordic security, strengthening Canada's aerospace and cyber industries, and forging a new economic defense corridor across the Arctic. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss how Canada's influence keeps expanding through global alliances like this one. Before we continue, please note, the visuals in this video are simulations and illustrative footage only. They do not depict real defense systems or classified technology. All materials are used for educational and analytical purposes. Now, let's continue with the $19 billion modernization blueprint. Sweden's defense modernization program represents the nation's largest strategic investment since the end of the Cold War, nearly $19 billion earmarked for next-generation systems, domestic production, and allied cooperation. The objective isn't expansion, it's resilience. At the heart of the plan are three priorities: strengthen air defense through the Gripen E fighter program, enhance cyber and electronic warfare capabilities, and modernize Arctic readiness infrastructure. The initiative is being managed by Sweden's Defense Materiel Administration, FMV, and integrates procurement from key partners, including Saab, BAE Systems Hägglunds, and Ericsson Defense. For Canada, the significance lies in how this modernization aligns with its own defense industry growth strategy. Canada's defense exports, valued at over $2.5 billion Canadian dollars in 2024, are dominated by avionics, training systems, and cyber solutions, all sectors Sweden is now expanding. Through NATO, Ottawa gains access to Swedish R&D projects under the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, DIANA, and the NATO Innovation Fund, both designed to bridge startups, universities, and allied militaries. The result is an ecosystem where Swedish and Canadian firms collaborate on AI-enhanced targeting, secure data networks, and pilot training platforms. In practical terms, every new Gripen E built with Canadian avionics, or every Swedish radar tested with Canadian simulation software, reinforces a shared industrial base. Sweden's modernization isn't just national renewal. It's an economic security model for middle powers. Invest in high-tech, partner smartly, and multiply influence through interoperability. Historically, Sweden and Canada have shared a long-standing partnership in aerospace and defense innovation, one built on engineering trust rather than competition. Separated by an ocean but united by northern skies, both nations have always treated airspace as a matter of precision and sovereignty, not spectacle. The connection dates back to the mid-20th century. Saab was designing the first Gripen fighters, while Canadair, later Bombardier, was producing NATO's CF-104 starfighter. Each became proof that smaller democracies could master high-end systems without depending fully on superpowers. By the 1990s, Saab and Bombardier engineers were already collaborating on flight training standards and simulation technology, technical bridges that never disappeared. That heritage is returning. Sweden's $19 billion defense modernization plan now expands partnerships with Canada's aerospace corridor from Montreal to Winnipeg. Since Sweden joined NATO in 2023, both nations have gained access to the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, DIANA, co-led by Canada, which funds dual-use advances in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and secure communications. Research teams from McGill University Carleton and KTH Royal Institute of Technology are jointly developing quantum-resistant encryption and AI-driven flight safety systems under NATO's Emerging and Disruptive Technologies agenda. On the industrial side, CAE Inc., L3 Harris Canada, and MDA Space now contribute to Sweden's modernization. CAE's next-generation simulators train Gripen E pilots, while Saab and Canadian engineers refine sensor fusion software integrating radar and optical data. Together, Sweden and Canada are transforming aerospace cooperation into digital defense innovation, a model of high-value exports built on technology, trust, and shared northern ingenuity. Geographically, Sweden and Canada stand as mirror nations across the Arctic Circle, vast, resource-rich, and defined by their northern frontiers. Both nations see the Arctic not as a frozen periphery, but as the next stage of strategic logistics and environmental stewardship. As polar ice retreats, new sea lanes are emerging, linking Europe, North America, and Asia through routes once thought impassable. For Ottawa and Stockholm, this transformation demands both vigilance and cooperation. Sweden's $19 billion defense modernization program allocates major resources to Arctic-capable surveillance aircraft, satellite coordination, and radar systems designed for high-latitude operations. These advancements align directly with Canada's $38 billion Canadian NORAD modernization, which includes next-generation over-the-horizon radar and joint Arctic command centers. Both programs reflect a shared commitment to situational awareness across the Northern Hemisphere, ensuring the Arctic remains secure, sustainable, and open to lawful navigation. Technologically, Canadian and Swedish firms are collaborating on ice-rated drones, under-ice sonar arrays, and low-temperature materials that can operate in sub-zero extremes. Data sharing between Sweden's Kiruna Space Center and Canada's northern installations in Inuvik enhances NATO's polar intelligence network, linking the Baltic and Arctic into a single surveillance domain. Economically, this cooperation strengthens domestic industries in both countries, from Canada's aerospace and sensor manufacturers to Sweden's satellite and data analytics firms. Strategically, it reinforces both nations as trusted Arctic stewards, balancing national sovereignty with collective defense. Together, they are transforming the world's coldest frontier into a zone of shared security and innovation. Sweden's entry into NATO has redrawn the alliance's northern map almost overnight. For the first time in modern history, the Baltic and Arctic operate as one interconnected defense zone, a strategic corridor stretching from the Gulf of Bothnia to Canada's high north. Within this geography, Sweden's $19 billion defense pact is more than a domestic upgrade. It's a framework for total interoperability among northern allies. Through this program, Stockholm is synchronizing procurement standards with Canada, Norway, and Finland, ensuring that future systems, from aircraft to radar and secure communications, function seamlessly within NATO's architecture. This alignment directly benefits Canadian industry. By joining the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic (DIANA) network, Sweden opens its defense supply chain to allied firms developing cutting-edge avionics, simulation, and cyber protection systems. Canadian manufacturers such as Magellan Aerospace, General Dynamics Mission Systems Canada, and L3 Harris are already positioning to supply sensor packages, training software, and command and control components for Sweden's expanding modernization agenda. Every Gripen E fighter integrated with Canadian-made avionics or mission systems becomes a tangible symbol of alliance cohesion, proof that technology, not territory, now defines NATO's deterrent strength. For Ottawa, the return is both strategic and economic. Canadian exports gain entry to one of Europe's most sophisticated procurement ecosystems, while NATO gains a more unified northern shield capable of joint operations across air and maritime domains. In essence, Sweden's modernization builds a northern economic defense corridor, a quiet but powerful counterbalance that strengthens collective resilience and elevates Canada's influence inside the alliance. Defense investment has always acted as an economic catalyst, and Sweden's $19 billion modernization program is no exception. The plan is expected to generate over 25,000 high-tech jobs nationwide and boost research spending across aerospace composites, materials science, and cybersecurity. The ripple effect reaches well beyond Stockholm's borders. For Canada, this initiative opens a rare export window into Europe's most advanced defense market. Canadian companies specializing in simulation software, carbon fiber production, and avionics integration are expanding licensing deals with Swedish partners. SAE Inc. provides simulation environments for Gripen E pilot training under Saab's modernization roadmap, while Magellan Aerospace develops precision components compatible with Saab's modular defense pylons and airframe systems. This wave of collaboration marks Canada's growing role as an upstream supplier within NATO's manufacturing network. Contracts tied to L3Harris Canada and General Dynamics Mission Systems Canada involve radar subsystems, secure data links, and training infrastructure, products that carry high intellectual value and minimal export risk. For smaller Canadian suppliers, Sweden's procurement standards set a blueprint for entry into other European markets, from Finland to Germany. Economically, the benefits compound. Cross-licensing of patents and co-funded research projects stimulate both domestic employment and GDP diversification. Diplomatically, each successful export strengthens Ottawa's influence inside NATO's industrial committees. In short, Sweden's modernization is creating an economic defense corridor, a flow of contracts, knowledge, and credibility that turns joint innovation into long-term prosperity for both nations. The next frontier of defense is digital and orbital. Sweden's modernization program devotes more than $2 billion to cyber resilience and space-based communications, areas where Canada already plays a leading role. This investment reflects a simple truth. In modern warfare, the advantage belongs not to whoever controls the most aircraft, but to whoever controls the flow of information. For Canada, this opens a new technological bridge. Ottawa's Canadian Space Agency, CSA, along with private sector leaders like MDA Space, GHGSat, and Northstar Earth and Space, is expanding partnerships with Sweden's Swedish Space Corporation and Saab Surveillance. Joint projects under NATO's Allied Space Policy include Arctic satellite constellations designed to secure high-latitude communications and low Earth orbit surveillance platforms capable of detecting maritime or environmental anomalies in real time. Both nations also contribute to NATO's cyber defense pledge, focusing on AI-enabled network protection and quantum-resistant encryption. Canada's Communications Security Establishment, CSE, shares best practices with Sweden's National Defense Radio Establishment, FRA, to harden satellite data links against interference and to secure command networks that support air and naval missions across the North Atlantic. These collaborations weave Canadian digital expertise directly into Europe's emerging defense web. Every encrypted relay, orbital sensor, and simulation system developed jointly strengthens NATO's collective resilience. Strategically, it elevates Canada's brand from traditional supplier to trusted technology architect, a nation exporting security itself rather than hardware alone. By uniting cyber innovation with space infrastructure, Sweden and Canada are ensuring that the alliance's northern flank remains not just well-armed, but digitally unbreakable in the decades ahead. While Sweden invests billions in modernization, Canada's returns are both strategic and economic. Through collaboration with Stockholm, Ottawa is strengthening its role as a reliable Arctic and NATO partner while securing lucrative positions within Europe's growing defense supply chain. The benefits go far beyond short-term contracts. They shape how Canada's innovation economy integrates into the next era of alliance security. Canadian firms such as CAE Inc., Magellan Aerospace, and General Dynamics Mission Systems Canada are now positioned to deliver components, software, and training systems that fit seamlessly into Sweden's modernization pipeline. These partnerships generate export revenues measured in the hundreds of millions, but they also create new domestic jobs in engineering, materials science, and advanced manufacturing. By aligning industrial standards with Sweden and Finland, Canada ensures its defense technologies meet NATO's future specifications, opening doors to additional procurement programs across Europe. On the diplomatic front, participation in Sweden's $19 billion defense transformation reinforces Canada's influence in NATO's industrial planning committees and its voice in Arctic strategy sessions. It signals that Canada is not simply contributing troops or funding, but designing technology and doctrine for the alliance's northern defense architecture. Most importantly, this cooperation helps Canada diversify beyond the U.S. defense ecosystem, reducing dependency on a single market. By cultivating European partnerships, Ottawa gains new leverage in global negotiations and stability against cyclical U.S. procurement changes. In essence, Canada's engagement with Sweden is a long-term strategic investment, securing northern roots, building industrial independence, and proving that innovation can be diplomacy in its most practical form. Sweden's $19 billion defense deal marks more than a military investment. It signals a strategic and philosophical realignment. Northern nations like Sweden and Canada are redefining defense as a driver of innovation, sustainability, and shared prosperity rather than competition. The emphasis is no longer on stockpiling armaments, but on creating resilient, interoperable systems that strengthen alliances through technology and trust. Together, these countries are proving that small and mid-sized democracies can shape global security by focusing on precision, intelligence, and industrial synergy. Their cooperation in aerospace, cyber defense, and Arctic surveillance is transforming the way NATO's northern flank operates, replacing fragmentation with data fusion and outdated hardware races with digital integration. The result is a regional model of smart defense, where every nation contributes specialized expertise rather than redundant capacity. For Canada, this partnership amplifies its quiet influence on the world stage. Through Sweden, Ottawa extends its economic reach into the European defense market while reinforcing its leadership in Arctic monitoring and sustainable resource development. For Sweden, the alliance provides access to Canadian technologies and northern logistics experience that are vital for Arctic readiness. Ultimately, this deal symbolizes a broader truth. In the 21st century, innovation is deterrence. Sweden and Canada are showing that strength no longer lies in size, but in adaptability. The ability to integrate satellites, code, and cold weather engineering into one seamless defense architecture. And that's why Sweden's $19 billion defense deal changes everything, not just for Europe, but for how Canada secures its future, through intelligence, partnership, and quiet, deliberate power. If you found value in today's analysis, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Geo Capitalist, where we decode how nations build wealth, power, and strategic influence in a rapidly changing world. Comment below and let us know your thoughts. Do you believe Sweden's modernization marks the beginning of a new northern defense era? One where Canada quietly leads through innovation instead of military scale? And there you have it. And if you're new here, explore our full collection of geopolitical breakdowns, from Canada's $18 billion aluminum shift to Europe reshaping Europe's energy map. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.